He was the most powerful king in the world. He had won wars, governed a magnificent kingdom, and been beloved by his people for 60,000 years. And he went to sleep every night feeling incomplete because he had no son. That longing, that very human, very ordinary longing, is where the Ramayana truly begins.
Yeah, and it really is the emotional anchor of this entire epic.
Right.
Because I think we often approach these massive ancient texts expecting like gods and monsters and cosmic battles right out of the gate. But here we actually start with a very private, very quiet kind of agony.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we are doing today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Happy to be here.
So today we are taking a magnifying glass to the early sections of the Balakanda of the Ramayana of Valmiki. But our mission today isn't to look at King Dasharatha as, this distant mythological symbol.
Right, not just a symbol on a page.
We want to look at him as a man. We want you, listening right now, to imagine being in his shoes. A man who has literally everything except one thing he actually wants.
Which is a heavy place to be.
It really is. We are going to explore this universal, profoundly human longing for legacy and how the deepest vulnerabilities exist even at the absolute peak of worldly power.
And that's a fascinating paradox to explore, because to truly grasp the depth of Dasharatha's ache, you first really have to understand the staggering heights of his abundance.
Yeah, the contrast is everything.
Exactly. The epic goes to extraordinary lengths to build up the world of his capital city, Ayodhya, before it ever even reveals the king's sorrow.
Which is a very deliberate choice.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive narrative choice. You have to see the absolute flawless perfection of the kingdom to understand why the imperfection of his own lineage is just, well, it's entirely heartbreaking.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's talk about Ayodhya. I mean, the source material paints a picture of a utopia that almost defies imagination.
It really does.
It says, Emperor Dasharatha rules like the moon in the midst of countless stars. And the sheer scale of the prosperity here is, frankly, mind-boggling.
Yeah, and it's not just a vague, oh, they had a lot of gold kind of wealth. Right.
It's incredibly specific. Valmiki is meticulous here. He gives us the specific geography of Ayodhya's power.
Like, how specific are we talking?
Well, we are told the city abounds in warriors who are undefeated in battle. They are described beautifully as being like lions guarding their mountain caves.
Oh, wow. Lions in caves.
Yeah, and the resources are vast and meticulously sourced. So there are prized horses brought in from distant famous regions like Kamroja and Vali.
So they're importing the absolute best of the best.
Exactly. There are mighty elephants, described as being like great hills from the Vindhya Mountains and the Himalayan ranges.
Wow.
I mean, this isn't just a wealthy city. This is the undisputed center of the world. In fact, the name Ayodhya itself translates to the city, none can challenge in warfare.
Right, so it's this impenetrable fortress of success. But, I think what really makes Ayodhya stand out isn't just the military might or the brute wealth.
What stands out to you? It's the administrative structure. It's described with this incredible reverence, like Dasharatha isn't ruling as a tyrant, he's following ancient wisdom.
Yes, very true.
And he has this cabinet of 8 named, deeply devoted ministers.
Right, ministers with names like Sumantra, Ashoka, Jayanta, and Siddhartha.
Yeah, and they are guided by great and holy spiritual sages, right? Like Vasishta and Vamadeva.
Exactly. And the psychological profile of these ministers is it's fascinating.
It really is. They are relentlessly objective. The text says they are versed in moral law, entirely disinterested in personal gain, completely free from avarice.
Which is rare for any government, ancient or modern.
Right. But there is a detail in the text that absolutely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, I think I know which one you mean.
It says, these ministers even pass judgment on their own sons if they broke the law.
Yeah, we really need to pause on that, because that is a crucial defining detail.
It's intense.
It is. What Valmiki is establishing here is the absolute flawlessness of Dasharatha's world, but it's a terrifying kind of perfection.
Terrifying is the right word.
These ministers are so committed to the concept of Dharma.
And for the listener who might not be deeply familiar with the concept, how should we define Dharma in this specific context?
That's a great question.
Because it's way heavier than just, following the rules, right?
Oh, absolutely. Dharma isn't just human law. It is the cosmic order. It is the fundamental fabric that holds the universe together.
So it's the literal physics of their morality.
Yes. For a king and his ministers, maintaining Dharma means ensuring that justice, truth, and order are upheld at all costs. Because if the king fails in his Dharma, the actual physical world suffers.
Like natural disasters.
Exactly. The crops fail, the rain stops, society crumbles. So when we say these ministers are committed to Dharma, we mean they view their duty as upholding the literal universe.
Wow.
And to do that, they would sever their own familial attachments, they would look at their own child, and if that child broke the law, they would execute justice without a flinch.
Which is chilling. I mean, think about the isolating reality of a justice system so cold and perfect that a father would punish his own child for the stability of the state.
It's a heavy burden.
It really paints a picture of a society where human messiness, human bias, and nepotism just do not exist. They add to the royal treasury without burdening the learned and the warriors.
Right, the economics are perfect.
They issue wise edicts. They even spend their free time exercising their minds in philosophical debate. It is the absolute peak of civilization.
Every single variable in this kingdom is controlled, optimized, and perfected.
It is a machine of pure, unadulterated success. But, and I think this is where the human element breaks through the perfection, that absolute control makes the one thing they cannot control feel infinitely heavier.
For sure. It's like a flawlessly coded operating system.
Yeah, or a perfectly tuned luxury engine. Every single part works, the economics work, the military works, the justice system works.
But the ignition switch for the future is just missing.
That is the perfect analogy. Dasharatha controls armies. He controls vast economies. He ensures absolute justice across his empire.
But he doesn't have an heir.
Exactly. The one thing that matters most to him, the continuation of his lineage, the passing of the torch, is entirely out of his grasp.
So let me ask you this, and I want you, the listener, to think about this too.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine you've optimized every single part of your life. Your career is peaking, your finances are secure, your health is great.
Sounds nice.
Right. But the one thing you actually want, the one deeply personal thing, is impossible to achieve.
Yeah.
Does having a perfect kingdom actually make Dasharatha's private sorrow worse?
Oh, man.
When you have the power to fix literally everything else in your life, when your word is law and mountains literally move when you speak, doesn't the one unfixable thing drive you absolutely mad?
I mean, it has to. Legend claims his reign lasted 60,000 years.
Right, which we can take as a poetic ancient indicator of an incredibly long, stable, unshakable reign.
Decades upon decades of solving every complex geopolitical problem. But he can't solve this one thing.
I would argue it absolutely makes it worse.
Mhm.
If we look at the underlying psychology of power, when you are used to total agency, helplessness isn't just sad.
No, it's agonizing.
Exactly. For a monarch of his stature, an unsolved problem isn't just a personal annoyance. It's an existential threat to his sense of self and his dharma.
Because his duty is to protect the realm.
Yes. And protecting the realm ultimately means providing an heir to ensure its future stability. Without an heir, all of this perfection, the uncorrupted ministers, the undefeated warriors, the happy citizens, it all has an expiration date.
It all ends with him.
It does. The perfect machine will eventually run out of gas and crash.
And he knows it. He feels the clock ticking on all of this perfection, which pushes him to a breaking point.
It really does.
It drives this monarch, who is entirely used to issuing commands, to finally drop to his knees and admit he needs help.
Which is a massive pivot in the narrative.
Huge. We transition from this towering image of an untouchable emperor to a fascinating look at the vulnerability of power.
Acknowledging that the perfect machine is broken requires a tremendous shift in perspective for a ruler. Dasharatha realizes that human intervention, political maneuvering, and military might are totally useless here.
Right.
He has to look beyond his earthly power, so he decides he must perform a massive ancient ritual.
The yajna.
Exactly. Specifically, he announces his intention to perform the great Ashwamedha.
The horse sacrifice.
Right, the horse sacrifice, as a prelude to the Putrakameshti yajna, which is a highly specific fire sacrifice designed solely to invoke divine help for a son.
Okay, we really need to pause and explain the Ashwamedha.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Because when a modern listener hears horse sacrifice, they might just picture, like, a brief bloody ceremony at an altar.
Oh, no, it is not that at all.
Right. The text notes that even for kings, the horse sacrifice was not easily performed. This is an incredibly intense, year-long logistical nightmare and the ultimate geopolitical flex. What actually is a horse sacrifice?
It is arguably the most ambitious and arrogant ritual an ancient king could attempt.
Arrogance is a great word for it.
The mechanics of it are staggering. So the king selects a perfectly flawless, consecrated horse, and then he just lets it go. He releases it to wander completely freely for an entire year.
Just wanders wherever it wants.
Exactly. But it's not alone. The horse is followed by the king's absolute best warriors and a massive army.
Okay, so a heavily armed escort for a wandering horse.
Right. And here's the catch. Wherever that horse roams, whatever kingdom it wanders into, King Dasharatha is essentially claiming that territory as his own.
Oh, wow.
If the local ruler of that territory lets the horse pass, they are officially submitting to Dasharatha's supreme authority.
And if they don't?
If that local ruler stops the horse or tries to capture it, it means instant war with the army trailing behind it.
It's basically ancient geopolitical provocation.
It really is.
It's like walking into a crowded, hostile bar, throwing your wallet on the floor, and daring anyone to step on it.
That's a hilarious analogy, but yeah, it's accurate.
You are inviting a fight with every single kingdom on earth to prove that you are the undisputed sovereign.
It is the ultimate display of imperial confidence. You only do an Ashwamedha if you are absolutely certain no one on earth can beat you.
Right.
But here is the profound layer to Dasharatha's actions. He isn't doing this to flex his military muscle. He already has the power.
So why do it?
He is doing it to prove his absolute sovereignty to the cosmos, to get the attention of the divine so that they will grant him the one thing he actually lacks.
Man, he is using the ultimate symbol of earthly arrogance to express a deeply vulnerable personal need.
Exactly.
And to orchestrate this massive undertaking, he has to convene his priests.
The best of the best.
Right, he brings in Suyanya, Vamadeva, Javali, Kasyapa, Vasishta. He brings the absolute spiritual heavyweights of his kingdom into the room.
And the speech he gives them is remarkably naked.
Yes. It strips away all the imperial pomp.
It really does.
Yeah.
What does he actually say to them?
He addresses the assembled sages and says, I have practiced virtue, and yet I have not had the good fortune to be blessed with a son.
That right there. That is a stunning admission.
It really is.
What's fascinating about that sentence is the absolute absence of entitlement. He doesn't say, I am the emperor, I demand a son.
Right.
He doesn't say, I've paid my dues, the universe owes me. He simply states the painful, irreconcilable contradiction of his life. I have done everything right. I have practiced virtue, and yet the result I wanted hasn't materialized.
It's an admission that effort and morality do not always guarantee the desired outcome.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. Which brings us to a profound life value we can pull from this deep dive. Humility before what we cannot control is its own kind of courage.
Beautifully said. Humility before what we cannot control. Because we've all been there, haven't we?
Absolutely. I want you, the listener, to think about a time when you did everything right. You studied for the test, you prepped for the interview, you put in the hours, you followed the blueprint.
And you still didn't get the job.
Right. Or the relationship still failed. Usually when you're the most powerful person in the room, you just dictate the terms.
But here you have the CEO of the world, a man who commands literal armies, basically saying, I followed the rules and I still failed. I am completely out of my depth. What do I do?
It requires the experts around him to step up. The Brahmins, these great sages, they praise his intention.
They do. They assure him that this holy resolve, this incredible undertaking of the Ashwamedha, followed by the Putrakameshta yajna, will actually bring the fulfillment of his desire.
But notice the immense caution involved in their planning. This isn't just a green light. It's a terrifying logistical tightrope.
Oh, yeah. Dasharatha turns to his ministers and gives them a very specific, almost paranoid warning about how the preparations must be handled.
He really does. He tells them to adopt strict measures to diminish any possibility of hindrance.
Right.
He explicitly says that during the observance of the sacrifice, no suffering must be inflicted on anyone.
Which is a tall order for a year-long project.
Seriously. He is terrified that some slighted person or some angry, crafty Brahmin might cause an obstruction or utter a curse.
Yeah.
Why is he so paranoid about someone having a bad day during the prep work?
Well, this reveals so much about the underlying mechanics of ancient rituals, the yajna. A yajna isn't just a prayer. It is a highly technical transactional mechanism with the cosmos. It's almost like coding a massive software program.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Every single line of code has to be perfect, or the whole program crashes. The king knows that a ritual of this magnitude is a fragile, sensitive ecosystem.
So any negativity ruins the code.
Exactly. If a single act of suffering is inflicted on a laborer building the altars, if someone is underpaid, if someone is disrespected, that negative energy, that lack of Dharma, infects the ritual. An angry curse from a slighted person can render a year's worth of sacrifice entirely void. It requires not just physical wealth to execute, but absolute moral purity and social harmony.
So he knows the universe is looking for any excuse to reject the transaction.
Yes.
He is terrified of failing because this is his last shot.
Yeah.
And he's not the only one carrying the weight of this desperation.
No, his family feels it too.
Right. After speaking to the ministers and priests, he leaves the grand public court and goes to his private apartments to speak to his wives.
Queen Kaushalya, Queen Kaikeyi, and Queen Sumitra.
He tells them his intention to observe the sacrifice for his son and asks them to follow the prescribed spiritual disciplines. And the epic describes their reaction with a beautiful, poignant metaphor.
I love this part.
It says their faces brightened like flowers on the departure of the cold season.
It's such an evocative image, and it serves to remind us that while this is a massive state crisis involving armies and cosmic rituals, it is also at its core a deeply intimate family trauma.
It really is.
These three queens have shared in this silent sorrow, this echoing emptiness in the palace, for years. The departure of the cold season implies they have been living in a long emotional winter of grief and inadequacy.
Yeah.
The mere hope of a solution, the fact that the king is finally taking action, brings a profound physical relief to the royal household.
But of course, acknowledging the problem and having hope is only step one. They have a grand plan to perform the sacrifice.
They know the mechanics of the yajna.
But it turns out they have a massive roadblock. They need a very specific missing piece, a human catalyst, to make the ritual actually work.
Right, and this is where the narrative takes a wildly unexpected turn. We move from the pristine halls of Ayodhya into deep ancient magic and prophecy.
Yes. So Sumantra, the king's chief minister, asks for a private audience with Dasharatha.
And he says, essentially, Your Majesty, the horse sacrifice is a great idea, but there is a tradition, a prophecy told in ancient days by the blessed Sanat Kumara that you need to know about. Yeah. The prophecy states that Dasharatha will indeed obtain a son, but it strictly requires the help of a very specific living individual to officiate the fire sacrifice.
And who is that?
A young sage named Rishyasringa.
And Rishyasringa is not just a regular priest you can hire.
Oh, definitely not.
His background is intense, and the mechanics of why he is needed are fascinating. He is the son of a terrifyingly powerful sage named Vibhandaka.
A very angry sage.
Very. But the key detail is how this boy has been raised. He lives deep in an impenetrable forest, completely isolated from civilization.
Right.
He practices strict vows of brahmacharya, and the epic stresses that he dwells in the forest alone with his father, unknown to any other man or woman.
Which is wild.
He has literally never laid eyes on another human being besides his father.
We really need to dive into the concept of brahmacharya and asceticism here.
Please do.
Because to a modern listener, a boy isolated in the woods just sounds like child abuse or severe social deprivation.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
But in this cosmological framework, it is the source and ultimate universe-bending power.
Exactly. Why does a socially awkward teenager in the woods have the power to fix an emperor's cosmic fertility issue?
It comes down to the ancient concept of tapas.
It's tapas.
Which translates roughly to spiritual heat or energy. In this worldview, every human desire, every sensory experience, looking at something beautiful, eating something delicious, experiencing lust or anger, expends spiritual energy.
Okay, so you're constantly burning fuel.
Exactly. When an ascetic goes into the forest and denies their senses, when they practice extreme celibacy and isolation, like Rishyasringa, they aren't expending any of that energy.
So what are they doing with it?
They are storing it. They are hoarding this cosmic heat. Because Rishyasringa has never seen a woman, never tasted rich food, never experienced greed or worldly desire, his purity is absolute.
Wow.
He is essentially a walking, fully charged, radioactive battery of pure cosmic energy.
I love that analogy. He's a battery of tapas.
Pres-
And according to the prophecy, his unique, uncorrupted spiritual purity is the exact specific voltage required to catalyze Dasharatha's ritual. It forces the universe to grant him a son.
But here is where the plot thickens significantly.
Always does.
Sumantra doesn't just tell the king, hey, go into the forest and get this kid.
Right.
He tells a parallel story about another king, King Lomapada of the neighboring country of Anga.
Yes, and this is where Valmiki uses narrative contrast brilliantly. We've just spent all this time establishing Dasharatha as the ultimate virtuous ruler of a flawless utopia.
And Lomapada is introduced as his exact opposite.
He is the anti-Dasharatha.
Totally. The epic tells us that Lomapada oppressed his people by his evil way of life. He was wicked, corrupt, and failed in his Dharma entirely.
And in this world, the moral failing of the king isn't just a political issue.
No, it has a direct physical consequence on the land itself. His evil causes a devastating apocalyptic drought. The rains completely stop.
So Lumapada's kingdom is starving. The land is cracking. The king is afflicted and desperate.
As he should be.
He calls his Brahmins and asks how to expiate his evil deeds, how to balance the cosmic scales and break the drought.
And the Brahmins tell him that the only way to save his kingdom is to bring this exact same boy, the ascetic battery Rishyasringa, to his royal court.
And not just bring him.
Right, and give him his daughter, Princess Shanta, in marriage. The physical presence of the boy's stored purity is the only thing strong enough to wash away the king's impurity and trigger the rain.
If we step back and look at the structural brilliance of this, it's a staggering narrative setup.
It really is.
You have two completely opposite kings. One is virtuous, beloved, reigning over a perfect utopia, but desperate for an heir to continue his legacy.
And the other is wicked, oppressive, reigning over a dying, drought-stricken wasteland, desperate for rain just to save his own skin.
And both of these massive geopolitical existential crises are entirely dependent on the exact same innocent boy sitting quietly in a forest.
Completely unaware of the world outside.
It's an incredible web. It shows how the universe intertwines human destinies completely, regardless of a person's moral standing.
Yeah.
Both the good king and the bad king are equally helpless without this one specific key. But I have to ask a pointed question here.
Go for it.
Because looking at this through a modern lens, it feels deeply uncomfortable. Are we just looking at a high-stakes geopolitical trade-off here?
What do you mean?
Think about it. Lomapada needs rain to save his collapsing state. Dasharatha needs a ritual to secure his dynasty. And this poor, sheltered, innocent kid in the woods is just the bargaining chip between these massive ancient superpowers.
It definitely looks that way.
It feels like the ultimate trolley problem. Do you sacrifice the total innocence of one boy to save thousands of people from starving in a drought?
I'm actually going to push back on the idea that this is a trolley problem.
Oh, really?
At least in the way the ancient world would have viewed it. The trolley problem assumes a modern framework of individual human rights.
Okay, fair.
It assumes that the boy has a right to his life in the forest, and pulling the lever to sacrifice his innocence for the greater good is a terrible ethical dilemma. But in the cosmological framework of this epic, individual rights just don't exist in that way.
So how do they view him?
To Lomapada, and frankly to the universe itself, Rishyasringa isn't a person with a right to self-determination.
He isn't?
No, he is a natural resource.
Wow.
He is a reservoir of tathas. Needing him to break a drought isn't viewed as corrupting a boy. It's viewed more like damming a river or mining a mountain to save a city.
That is wild.
Yes, the boy is absolutely being used as an instrument for statecraft.
Right.
The kings aren't concerned with what Rishyasringa wants.
Right.
They are entirely focused on what his purity can do for the cosmic order. The preservation of Dharma saving the kingdom from starvation, ensuring the continuation of a righteous dynasty, supersedes the individual isolation of an ascetic.
Wow. He's a natural resource. That is a fascinating and somewhat terrifying way to look at it.
It's definitely a different worldview.
But it perfectly explains the ruthless lengths they go to in order to acquire him. Which brings us to the actual extraction mission.
Yes, the heist.
Exactly. Sumantra narrates exactly how King Lomapada manages to pull this boy out of the forest. And let me tell you, it is a masterclass in manipulation.
It is.
It's essentially ancient corporate espionage.
It absolutely is.
Lomapada knows he needs the boy, but he has a massive, terrifying obstacle.
The dad.
Yes, the boy's father, the sage Vibhandaka. The ministers are flat out unwilling to approach the father directly. They are terrified of his wrath.
Because he's also a powerful sage, right?
Oh, yeah. Remember, if the boy is a battery of power, the father is a nuclear reactor. If they just walk into the hermitage and demand the boy for state purposes, the father could incinerate them with a curse.
Or destroy the entire kingdom.
Exactly. So a frontal assault is out. They can't use force.
They have to use deception. They have to poach the young prodigy without the CEO noticing. Precisely. The ministers devise a plan. They realize that Rishyasringa's entire power comes from the fact that he is wholly unacquainted with the pursuit of pleasure.
Right.
He only knows asceticism, fasting, and fire worship. So the ministers say, by the means of those things gratifying to the senses, we shall most certainly be able to bring the sage to the court.
So what do?
They decide to send beautifully attired, lovely courtesans into the deep forest to charm him and lure him away.
It's a profound and sudden shift in the tone of the epic. We go from grand discussions of statecraft, armies, and cosmic horse sacrifices to a highly intimate, sensory, almost psychological thriller in the woods.
Yeah, the courtesans are sent as undercover operatives. They set up camp near the hermitage and wait.
Just waiting in the bushes.
Exactly. They watch for the father to leave to gather roots or bathe, and when the coast is clear, the boy, impelled by destiny, wanders out.
And I really want you to try and visualize this moment because this sensory contrast is incredible.
It's so stark.
You have this boy who has only ever known the muted greens and browns of the forest, the smell of wood smoke, and the absolute silence of isolation.
Right.
And suddenly he is confronted by these women. The text says they are wearing exquisite, many-colored robes. They are adorned with jewels. They smell of rich perfumes. They are singing sweet songs.
It is a complete sensory overload.
But the tragic irony is, he doesn't even know what he's looking at.
No, he literally has never beheld women before. He has no concept of gender, no concept of seduction, no concept of the worldly arts.
He's a blank slate.
So when these incredibly beautiful, heavily ornamented women approach him, he doesn't see a threat. He doesn't recognize it as a trap.
So what does he think they are?
His mind desperately tries to categorize them using the only framework he has, which is his ascetic life. He assumes they are just very beautiful, remarkably charming ascetics.
Wow.
He thinks they are fellow holy people who just happen to wear brighter clothes and have softer voices.
It's heartbreaking in its innocence. He actually invites them into his hermitage to offer them traditional guest hospitality.
Right. He's just being polite.
He gives them water to wash their feet and offers them the simple roots and wild fruits he eats every day. He is trying to be a good host to these holy beings.
And here's where the manipulation shifts from visual to explicitly physical and chemical.
Yeah.
The courtesans are terrified. The father might return at any moment and catch them, so they need to work quickly.
They are on a tight clock.
Right. They reject his simple roots and fruits. Instead, they ply the young sage with what the epic calls tasty confections that they brought with them from the city.
Oh boy.
They tell him, please accept our dainties in return. And while they do this, they caress the youth, embracing him, feeding him these incredibly rich, sugary sweets.
And this is the part that blows my mind. Rishyasringa eats these elaborate confections, and the text says he thinks them to be magical fruits.
Yep.
Having never tasted any food other than plain forest roots his entire life, his palate is completely overwhelmed.
Totally hijacked.
He is interpreting this entirely sensory, worldly seduction through the lens of spirituality. He thinks he is experiencing some divine blessing.
When really he is essentially intoxicated by sugar, perfume, and human touch, all orchestrated to fracture his reality.
Which brings us to another core life value embedded deeply in this story. Every solution has a moral complexity.
It really does.
How we obtain the help we need matters, and the epic doesn't shy away from the messiness of that. This is a profound exploration of desire, innocence, and the tension between means and ends.
Yeah, the boy's awakening to worldly senses isn't natural. It is entirely weaponized.
He's being manipulated.
His entire worldview is being dismantled on purpose for the sake of the state.
And look at the psychological state they leave him in. The courtesans, fearing the father's imminent return, pretend they need to go perform a fast, and they just flee the hermitage.
They leave him all alone.
And the text describes his state the next day. It says he felt dejected and restless. They have taken a mind that had previously been perfectly still, perfectly content in isolation, and they have violently planted the seed of worldly desire.
They completely destabilized his peace.
Yeah.
He can't focus on his rituals. He is pacing. He is longing for these ascetics to return. He has tasted the world, and now the forest feels empty.
So the next day, when the father is gone again, the courtesans return.
And they find him disconsolate.
And when they appear, they invite him to their own hermitage, promising to entertain him even better there. And he agrees.
Without hesitation.
He willingly leaves his home, completely unaware that he is walking into a meticulously laid trap set by a desperate king.
And the cosmic reaction is instantaneous.
Really?
Oh yeah. The moment the sage crosses the boundary out of the forest and enters the city of Anga, the epic says Indra showered rain on the domain of King Lamapada.
The skies just open up.
Immediately. The drought breaks, the parched earth is flooded, and the people rejoice.
Which proves your earlier point about him being a natural resource. The universe doesn't seem to care that he was tricked.
Not at all.
It didn't dock Lomapada points for deception. The mere physical presence of the boy's stored purity, his tapas, was all that was required to balance the cosmic scales of Lomapada's past evils. The transaction cleared, the rain falls.
It is a ruthless mechanism. But Lamapada, to his credit, seems to recognize the immense gravity of what has just happened.
He does.
Yeah, he realizes the staggering danger of the power he has just played with.
Oh, the father.
Exactly. He goes out to meet the boy personally, offers him humble, reverent salutations, and essentially begs him to use his power to prevent his father's wrath from destroying the kingdom once the father realizes his son has been stolen.
Right. Lomapada has to lock in the asset.
Lock it down.
So to secure the boy's allegiance and to fulfill the prophecy the Brahmins foretold, Lomapada takes him into the inner royal apartments and marries him to his own daughter, Princess Shante.
A huge promotion for a kid from the woods.
And the text notes, the Rishyasringa is deeply revered by the king and lives happily in the capital with his new bride. He transitions almost instantly from a silent creature of the forest to a revered fixture of a royal court.
So his innocence is entirely compromised. His entire life is upended. His ascetic vows are broken by marriage and worldly life.
But the rain falls.
And Lomapada's kingdom is saved from starvation. It is a wildly complex, morally gray extraction mission.
It really is.
But narratively, it perfectly sets the stage for our original protagonist, King Dasharatha.
Exactly. Because now, Rishyasringa is no longer hidden behind an angry, terrifying, radioactive father in an impenetrable forest.
Right, he's in the city.
He has been brought into the world. He is living in a royal court. He is accessible.
Very accessible.
The stage is perfectly set for Dasharatha to make his move and secure his own future. Which brings us to the culmination of this specific arc in the narrative.
Right. So Sumantra finishes recounting this incredible backstory to Dasharatha. He tells the king that he must journey to his friend, King Lamapada, and ask for Rishyasringa's help.
And does he?
He prophesies that Lamapada will permit his new son-in-law to accompany Dasharatha back to Ayodhya.
Ah.
The king will return to his capital with the young sage, who will then officiate the Putrakamesti yajna, the fire sacrifice. And from that sacrifice, Dasharatha will finally obtain his heart's desire. 4 sons of limitless valor who will increase the glory of their dynasty.
It is a remarkable, deeply layered sequence of events.
It's an incredible story.
We've gone from the perfect utopia of Ayodhya to the cosmic arrogance of a horse sacrifice to the desperate humility of a king to political espionage in a forest.
All to orchestrate the birth of an heir.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's crucial we step back and look at what this means for you, the listener.
Yeah, bringing it back to reality.
If we strip away the ancient setting, if we strip away the horse sacrifices, the cosmic energy batteries, and the prophecies, we are left with a story about the desperate, complicated lengths human beings will go to for the sake of the future.
Precisely. Because Dasharatha's quest wasn't about hoarding more gold, he already had a treasury full of it.
Right.
It wasn't about conquering more land. His warriors were already undefeated, his borders secure. It was about love.
Yeah?
It was about Dharma. It was about the terror of impermanence and the need to leave something behind.
Which leads to a profound question we all have to ask ourselves. I want you to think about this today.
Yeah.
What do you most want to pass on?
It's a big question.
And we aren't talking about possessions. We aren't talking about leaving behind a house or a car or a bank account.
No, not at all.
What is something essential about who you are, your values, your sense of justice, your love, that you desperately want to outlive you?
Because the desire for legacy is one of the most deeply human impulses we possess.
It really is.
But what we most want to pass on is rarely what we think it is at first glance.
How so?
Dasharatha thought he just needed a son to inherit a throne. But what he really needed was the assurance that the virtue, the absolute justice of those ministers, and the truth he had cultivated in Ayodhya wouldn't vanish from the earth the moment he closed his eyes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He was trying to make his ideals immortal.
And his journey shows us that even the most powerful people on earth, the CEOs, the emperors, the billionaires, have something they cannot provide for themselves.
Everyone has a blind spot.
No amount of money or authority can buy an exemption from human vulnerability. To get what matters most, they have to drop to their knees, ask for help, and rely on the unpredictable, messy, and sometimes morally complex machinery of the universe and the people around them.
It forces us to examine our own ambitions and our own vulnerabilities.
Definitely.
It reminds us that admitting we lack something isn't a weakness, it's the prerequisite for growth.
So we leave you with this final reflection. Think about your own life right now. What is the one thing you have prayed for, worked toward, or desperately hoped for more than anything else?
And more importantly,
Yes, what is that hoping revealed about what you truly value? Because the things we ache for, the things that keep us up at night when all our other needs are met, are the truest mirrors of our soul.
a powerful and necessary thought to carry forward as the wheels of this great ancient epic finally begin to turn.
They really are turning now.
The pieces are all on the board. The vulnerability has been exposed, the ascetic has been secured, and the cosmic transaction is ready to be made.
The sage Rishyasringa has arrived. The great yajna is about to begin. Hundreds of sages are gathering, the sacred fires are being prepared, and tonight, from those fires, something extraordinary is about to emerge.
Thank you so much for listening. If this story touched your heart, please do subscribe and press the bell icon.